Well, he loved Coach Brown first and foremost. He really liked his teammates. They were competitive with each other because there were three guys, really a fourth if you had Eddie Seltzer, but you had three guys with Stan and Murphy, Murphy Trahan, Stan Swelper, that were both great golfers, and they were very competitive. They were all in the same ilk in terms of their handicap and what they could shoot. So it was both friendly and competitive at the same time. But that's what made them so good. They were deep as a team. And what he shared with me is how one guy drove the other on a consistent basis. And I think that obviously makes for the best team situation imaginable, as we've seen throughout the years in any sport. And I think that's the one thing that he pointed out to me about when he was here. And obviously winning the championships were fantastic here and will always stand in the lore of the University of New Orleans as one of the greatest accomplishments in athletics here. Tradition, honor, discipline, excellence. That was the theme that he formed when he was at St. James, and I think all four were applicable to what drove him and what made him successful every day. He embraced tradition. He was a man of dignity and believed in honor. Obviously, discipline had to be part of anything that took place, and it was in anything he was involved in, including his own preparation, much less disciplining players. And then excellence. That's the ultimate. You drive and strive for excellence, and he would accept nothing less. And that's why, as demanding as he was as successful as he was. A brilliant coach, a great golfer, an even better guy. And ultimately, when he was unjustly dismissed at St. James High School, I called him immediately. And I hired him to work in radio with me, in which he did until he couldn't do it anymore physically. And he loved every minute of it. The thing that he shared the most with me was how the time came, Rick was a good enough golfer to turn pro, and that was an option for him. And it wasn't easy to ignore that or walk away from it, but then again it was, because he got a taste of the coaching aspect. And when he got into coaching, that's where I met him. I didn't know him when he played golf here, but I was familiar with what he had done. And I met him when he started coaching at Chalmette High School as an assistant football coach. And he was a young coach, and I was a young guy. And of course, he met his wife through that too, Elaine Helcher, and we got to be very friendly. Then he ended up at my alma mater at Archbishop Rummel, coaching there, and we got to be closer. Then he ended up at Tulane, and then he ended up at Bonneville, and then of course ultimately at St. James, where he was an incredibly successful head football coach. But I think either way, had he chosen either path, he would have been unbelievably successful because of what drove him. The guy was unbelievably competitive. He was as prepared as anybody I've ever known in my entire life for the task at hand, regardless of what that might be. And he also had tremendous compassion, which is, of course, what drew me to him more than anything else. Elaine, first and foremost, without a doubt. You know, some of his mentors in coaching, people that he worked with, going all the way back to Chalmette with Bobby Nuss and Bill Cimento and the people that coached at Chalmette who helped get him started. And then, of course, you know, going to Tulane and having the opportunity to work at Tulane, you know, in the early 80s. And, you know, Tulane went through Vince Gibson, Wally English, and then into Mac Brown. And then, of course, Mike Villamaret at Bonneville, who hired him there to be his offensive coordinator. Before that, Easton Roth at Rummel, who was his lifelong friend. Easton, Rick, and I were still doing Rummel broadcast until Rick got sick and just couldn't do it anymore. One funny story about that, but not funny, but I think, again, epitomizes his personality. I've been doing these games for over 40 years, and when you go to high school stadiums, there are no elevators. You're carrying 3 and 4 bags up these steep steps to get to press boxes. And I'd get there 2.5, 3 hours early, so it's typically just me. And at a younger age, you know, you can handle that stuff well. As you get older, it gets harder. Rick insisted on being there when I arrived so that he could help me, just to carry bags up steps. That's who he was. It makes me very emotional. The kind of guy he was.